On the first day of school, I outright refused 3 offers from my dad. I turned down his proposal to send me in a helicopter, his offer of an unlimited black card, and his suggestion to have a few bodyguards escort me.
What a joke. Keeping a low profile is my main theme. Otherwise, how could I get along well with my classmates in the future?
After a 2-hour tug-of-war with my dad, he finally decided to have Ethan take me to school. After all, he was my senior at the same school, which was convenient. Looking at the piles of luggage, I realized it wasn't practical for me to go alone, so I agreed. Screech. The Maybach turned and stopped on the road opposite President Smith University.
Chloe, let me help you.
No, no. I've told you several times, don't call me Chloe.
Ethan looked at me and smiled helplessly, as if he thought I was throwing a tantrum. I was speechless. Ethan was the son of my dad's driver, and we had grown up together, so I considered him a friend. My dad even intended for him to intern at our company in the future. But the one thing that annoyed me was his constant display of familiarity. In reality, we weren't that close. Out of courtesy, I didn't want to be blunt, so I tried to avoid him and hint at it, but he didn't seem to get it. As I carried my luggage into the school, I suddenly felt a prickling sensation on my back. Turning around, I saw a girl dressed in Chanel glaring at me with a venomous look.
Who was she?
3 big question marks floated in my head. Before I could figure it out, she was gone. I didn't think much of it and headed to the registration office. Unexpectedly, I ran into her again that afternoon. She turned out to be my roommate, Emily. As I finally lugged my bags into the dorm room, it seemed to trigger her like a switch. She jumped up from her chair, looking at me with disdain.
Oh my God, what did you bring? It's so filthy.
What the heck? I looked down at my luggage, Gucci's recent collaboration. Then I glanced at my bag, Prada. Where was the dirt?
Clearly a country bumpkin. How could I end up in the same room as you? You reek, it's disgusting.
The other 2 roommates gave me puzzled looks and then turned away, clearly not intending to speak up for me. Carrying such heavy luggage up to the 3rd floor had left me out of breath, so I didn't have the energy to deal with her. I found the bed with my name on it and started unpacking.
What are you doing?
Emily stomped on my newly bought Givenchy tweed jacket at the bathroom door.
A bunch of junk! What's so precious about it?
I like this bed. Someone like you from the countryside should sleep in the bathroom, it's more fitting.
I was instantly furious, not knowing what. The story begins with a confrontation in a college dormitory. Ava, who usually keeps a low profile, finds herself facing an unexpected challenge.
Calling me a country bumpkin, do you think you're so noble?
Ava picked up her clothes, walked over quickly, and threw all of Emily's stuff off her bed.
Even my housekeeper lives better than this. Who are you trying to impress?
Makeup, skirts, everything scattered on the floor as Ava kicked them aside.
You wretch, how dare you touch my stuff?
Emily lunged at Ava like a madwoman.
Seriously, I'm not your dad. Why would I tolerate your bad habits?
Sidestepping, Ava pushed Emily away. With a thud, Emily fell to the ground.
Ouch, it hurts.
Emily lifted her arm, her elbow scraped from the fall. She immediately turned to the other two roommates.
What are you looking at? Hurry up and take me to the infirmary.
The two roommates exchanged glances and quickly got up to help her. Ava watched the scene, speechless.
Really, this injury is so severe, she must go to the infirmary immediately. Otherwise, the wound might heal.
Emily shot Ava a venomous look, gritting her teeth.
Ava, right? Just you wait.
The roommates helped Emily out. Before leaving, one roommate looked back at Ava with pity.
Emily's dad is President Smith. You've offended her. How will you manage?
President Smith? Big deal. I'm the daughter of the richest man. Did I say anything?
Ava turned and continued to unpack her luggage, feeling completely unfazed, even a bit amused.
If being the daughter of a president makes her this unruly, if she were the daughter of the richest man, she probably wouldn't even respect her own father.
After finishing unpacking, Ava lay on the bed and sent a message to her dad.
Safe arrival at the university.
Dad replied with a caring message.
Sweetie, I put the black card in your bag, don't forget. Buy whatever you want. We don't lack money. And about that helipad, Dad has already talked to the university. We'll definitely invest in one.
Ava opened her bag and sure enough, there was the unlimited black card in the corner.
As expected, he slipped it in when I wasn't looking. Afraid I'd suffer even a little. I better not tell him about this little incident, or I fear he might blow up the school.
Before Ava could reply, another message from Dad came.
Didn't you like that bag from that mule brand? Dad ordered a batch for you. Ryan will bring them over tomorrow.
Mule? Hermes? Thanks, Dad.
Ryan is the son of her dad's friend, also Ava's childhood friend. He's also at her school, 2 years ahead of her, but he hasn't arrived this semester yet.
Don't ask.
The next day, the news that my dad was planning to build a helipad for President Smith University spread across the entire campus. The school's group chat was buzzing with excitement.
Wow, a helipad! That's incredible!
No wonder he's the richest man in China. Such vision.
By the way, why is he building a helipad?
I chuckled as I watched their discussion. Eventually, they concluded it was simply because he could afford it. And they weren't wrong. Before I could enjoy a few days of peace, the school issued a notice. At the welcome party, the richest man will be visiting our school. Each dorm group must prepare at least one performance. I knew it. Whenever my dad shows up, he brings a lot of work for me.
Emily, you must participate in this performance.
In the classroom, the counselor announced this from the podium, then looked towards the back of the room.
Don't worry, I will definitely perform.
After all, you're the only one with an 8th grade piano level. The others probably won't be of much use.
Yeah, we can only rely on you, Emily.
8th grade piano, that's impressive.
Listening to their flattery, I felt speechless. 8th grade piano? That might impress outsiders, but to someone like me, who has a professional 10th grade level, she's just a beginner. Maybe because I didn't react, Emily's voice rang out again.
Oh, some people can only watch. After all, the welcome party has nothing to do with someone from the countryside like her. She'd probably just embarrass herself on stage.
I ignored her. What a fool. Bang. Bang. Emily suddenly kicked my chair hard twice. I frowned and turned around.
Are you out of your mind?
Hearing me insult her, Emily's eyes filled with malice. She then looked directly at the counselor.
Mr. Johnson, Ava said she wants to perform too.
When did I say that?
You? What would you perform?
Oh, really? I wasn't planning to participate, as I don't like being in the spotlight, but the counselor's disdainful look provoked me. Fine, I'll do it.
Oh, I'll play the Swana.
When I first suggested learning the Swana, my dad was fully supportive. Pfft, ha ha ha. Emily burst out laughing, her laughter echoing through the classroom.
The Swana? That's hilarious. No wonder you're from the countryside, you only know such low-class things.
For a moment, I thought I misheard. Low class? Is she talking about the Swana?
The Swana is low class? What, and you aren't?
Emily's expression stiffened for a moment, then she sneered mercilessly.
I'm not wrong. Who plays the Swana anyway? If you ask me, you should learn the piano. That's what elegance is. Oh, I forgot.
She suddenly covered her mouth and smiled.
You're so poor, you probably can't afford it, right? I don't mean anything by it, but a piano lesson costs 150 yuan. Your parents probably have to work 2 days to earn that, right?
150 yuan? Sorry, but my piano lessons cost 50,000 yuan each. Taught by world-class piano masters. I learn many things, but in my heart, the Swana holds an irreplaceable position.
The sound of the Swana is awful, like 100 flies buzzing in my ears.
I stared at her mocking face.
Flies, huh? Isn't there one buzzing right in front of me?
Emily's face turned pale instantly. The surrounding classmates couldn't help but let out a few snickers.
What do you know, you low-class person? Foreigners all think the piano is the king of instruments. What does your Swana asterisk count for?
I nodded.
You're right. Then why don't you go abroad? Why stay here? The moon is always rounder abroad. Go ahead, don't breathe the same air as us low-class people.
As soon as I said this, it seemed to ignite the classmates' patriotic spirit, and they immediately echoed my sentiment.
Well said. Those who worship foreign things should leave.
Ugh, I hate these old lapdogs the most.
Emily suddenly became the target of everyone's anger, sitting there dumbfounded and at a loss. The counselor immediately banged the table.
Everyone, quiet down! Quiet!
Just because someone says something doesn't make it true. Emily is President Smith's daughter. How could she possibly worship foreign things?
After these words, the classmates all sat down and fell silent. The counselor's words highlighted Emily's background, and the previously indignant classmates clearly realized they couldn't afford to offend her, so they suppressed their resentment. The counselor cast a mocking glance at me.
Classmate, if you don't have the skills, don't take on the task. When the VIP arrives, do you want to embarrass yourself on stage?
I couldn't take it anymore. I was determined to be on this program.
Sorry, but I am signing up. At the very least, I will perform one act, maybe more. I am going on stage, so what?
Behind me, Emily snapped out of her daze.
It's okay, Mr. Johnson, let her go on. You wanted to go on stage yourself. If you embarrass yourself, don't blame us.
Embarrass myself? That's impossible. Not to mention anyone else, my dad will be there, and he will be the first to stand up and applaud for me. As long as he supports me, who dares to say anything? To be blunt, this event is practically prepared for him.
Whether I embarrass myself or not is none of your concern.
Seeing that Emily had agreed, the counselor had no choice but to nod and write my name on the registration form. After class, Ryan called me.
Hello?
Hello?
I'm at the gate. Your dad brought you a lot of packages. I can't fit them all in the car.
I'm coming!
I hung up the phone and rushed to the school gate. From a distance, I saw the young man leaning against the car. He was dressed in a white casual outfit, one hand resting on the car, the other holding a phone.
Ryan!
I dashed over, and as he looked up, I threw myself into his arms.
A traditional.
With a thud, I bumped into Ryan, causing him to stagger and wrap his arms around my back.
Stop being so reckless. Get down.
His voice was particularly pleasant to hear, especially since we hadn't seen each other for nearly 6 months. He had gone abroad to visit his mother and had just arrived at the airport yesterday.
No way. Where's my gift?
If you don't get down, how can I give it to you?
Reluctantly, I climbed down from him and looked up at him. There were beads of sweat on his forehead. Although his expression was indifferent, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but lift slightly.
I just love his little expression of liking me but being too shy to show it. It's adorable.
He opened the car door, revealing a pile of paper bags with the Hermes logo, all filled with bags my dad had sent me.
Here, a back-to-school gift. It's the pawn you like.
I eagerly unwrapped it to find a key inside. The key had a symbol similar to the Nike logo. McLaren. My back-to-school gift was a McLaren pawn worth over 20 million and practically priceless.
And what else?
Just this.
He leaned down and gently kissed my forehead. My face turned red, but his was even redder. 6 months ago, when he had to leave, I was determined to go with him, almost to the point of giving up my college entrance exams. Later, we made a promise that when he returned, we would, well, let's just say it's a secret.
What about all these bags?
Just leave them.
He took my hand and led me to the cafeteria. Along the way, classmates stared at me as if I were some rare creature. Once we got to the cafeteria, Ryan, as usual, went to stand in line to buy my favorite dishes while I sat quietly at a table, scrolling through my phone. Suddenly, a shadow fell over me. I looked up to see Emily standing in front of me with a resentful expression.
Ava, do you have any shame?
The sudden insult left me stunned. What did I do now?
You vixen, all you do is seduce people.
Oh dear, how embarrassing. People used to call me a little vixen.
Perhaps my unflappable demeanor infuriated her even more. She raised her voice in anger.
Do you have any shame? Seducing other people's boyfriends, two-timing, you shameless person.
For a moment, the noisy cafeteria fell silent. Everyone turned their attention to me, eager to witness the drama.
Are you sure you're mentally stable right now?
I've been single my whole life and haven't even had a boyfriend. suddenly being accused of two-timing? Who could tolerate that? What if Ryan misunderstood?
Stop talking nonsense! Shameless person!
With that, she grabbed a bowl of hot soup from a passerby and threw it at me. The scene was tense with a mixture of confusion and anger. Ava found herself in the middle of a storm of emotions.
Are you crazy?
Before Ava could finish her sentence, she saw Ryan's custom-made suit with a wet patch steaming slightly. His expensive suit was ruined.
Ah!
Ryan extended his long leg and kicked Emily in the abdomen. Emily's previously arrogant face turned pale, and she lay on the ground in pain, unable to get up, only able to scream.
Ava, you stole my boyfriend, and now you're attacking me with your lover?
The onlookers around them cast disdainful glances at Ava, as if they had all witnessed her stealing Emily's boyfriend. Ava was completely bewildered.
Do you have a persecution complex?
Ava wiped Ryan's custom jacket with pity, increasingly feeling that Emily shouldn't be in school but in a mental institution.
The hero who saved me is my boyfriend. I've only ever had this one boyfriend. I know he's handsome, but you don't have to fantasize about him like that.
Once Ava considered that Emily might have mental issues, she couldn't help but worry that Emily had her eyes on her man.
If you're unwell, seek treatment. Don't disturb others' lives. As for your so-called boyfriend, we don't care. Please keep him away from us.
Taking off the expensive custom suit and throwing it into the trash, Ryan firmly took Ava's hand.
If I hear you insult my girlfriend again, you'll be receiving a lawsuit from me.
Ryan was about to leave with Ava, but she looked at the disheveled Emily.
If your family's dog bites people outside, please control it. Don't act like a mad dog yourself, biting everyone you see.
Seeing Emily's face turn even paler, Ava added,
If possible, I suggest you get a rabies vaccine. You really look like you've been bitten by a mad dog before.
Holding Ryan's hand, they walked out of the cafeteria.
Do you know this woman?
She's in the same dorm as me. I heard she's the principal's daughter, but as you can see, her mental state seems unstable.
Ryan agreed, taking Ava to their usual Japanese restaurant. After eating, Ava returned to the dorm. What a coincidence, everyone was there. But Emily, having been kicked, was subdued, and the others were silent, making the room unusually quiet. Ava changed into her pajamas, ready to relax, when a call came in. To her surprise, it was Ethan. The phone rang for several seconds without being hung up, so she had to answer.
Ava, you finally picked up. Were you busy just now?
I just had dinner with Ryan. What's up?
Ethan was silent for a moment before speaking enthusiastically.
There's an interesting movie out. I wanted to invite you to watch it. I'll pick you up at your dorm.
Ava instantly got goosebumps, wanting to tell him directly that she didn't want to watch a movie or see him. But considering her dad valued this young man, she could only force a smile and decline.
No need, I don't want to watch a movie.
Chloe.
He seemed to want to say more, but Ava had no interest in continuing the conversation.
My face mask is about to be done. Gotta go, bye.
Hanging up, Ava breathed a sigh of relief, wondering how to make Ethan understand that she didn't know him well and didn't want to. Suddenly, another phone in the room rang. Emily's face lit up with a smile as she answered.
Why didn't you call earlier?
Watch a movie together. Sure, I'll be right there.
Emily agreed lightly, quickly freshening up and putting on full makeup in a few minutes.
Some people, no matter how much they try to stir things up, it won't work. Now, I'm going to watch a movie with my boyfriend.
The other two immediately chimed in.
Your boyfriend is so good to you. Go enjoy your date, we won't disturb you.
Emily gave Ava a glare, grabbed her bag, and left the dorm gracefully. Ava suddenly wondered why everyone was inviting girls to the movies today. Was there a blockbuster out? Why didn't Ryan invite her? She quickly messaged Ryan to confirm he was still in his dorm and not secretly inviting another girl, making her feel relieved. Ava always wondered what could make Emily stop targeting her. At this moment, she finally understood. It was the dreaded military training. Standing under the scorching sun, Ava felt like she was on fire. Emily, beside her, was also drenched in sweat, her makeup smudged, looking even worse than Ava.
Everyone, rest in place.
After what felt like an eternity, they finally got a brief rest. Ava almost collapsed like jelly. Her classmates were complaining about the hardships of military training in small groups. Ava stayed silent, just wanting to drink more water and use the restroom as an excuse to rest.
Wow, he's so handsome.
Isn't that the senior on the outstanding student list?
Exclamations of admiration filled Ava's ears. Curious, she looked in the direction of the voices. A man holding 2 bottles of drinks was walking towards them. Ava suddenly wished military training would start immediately, just because the person coming was the overly familiar Ethan. Unfortunately, her wish didn't come true. He still walked up to her, handing her a bottle of water in front of everyone, even taking out tissues with a doting smile.
Ava, wipe your sweat and drink some water. You must be exhausted.
Before Ava could speak, a scream like thunder erupted in her ear.
Ava, do you have no shame? Why are you seducing my boyfriend?
With a sigh, I twisted the cap back onto the water bottle I had just opened.
What? Has Emily's mental state deteriorated to the point where she now thinks I'm trying to harm her just by drinking water?
Rolling my eyes, I glanced around. Apart from the students undergoing military training, there wasn't a single man in sight. My gaze fell on Ethan's face, and I suddenly realized, right, he's a man too. But with Ethan's status, he clearly wouldn't be able to reach the principal's daughter, right?
Emily, are you out of your mind? I'm just drinking water. How am I seducing your boyfriend?
I haven't even talked to any guys during this entire military training. You need to have some limits when you slander people.
Emily's eyes seemed to blaze with anger as she looked at me.
You drank my boyfriend's water. Isn't that seducing him? Why else would he give you water?
Water? What water? The water I drank wasn't from her boyfriend, it was from Ethan. Wait, did I miss something?
After another mental review, I quickly found the answer. I looked at the bottle of mineral water in my hand and then at Ethan across from me. This guy is really something, playing extreme challenges with me?
Noticing my gaze, Ethan clenched and unclenched his fists repeatedly.
Ava,
I put the mineral water back and took out a wet wipe to clean my hands. I wasn't going to drink water given by a two-timer. Who knows what his ulterior motives might be? Seeing my actions, Ethan seemed suddenly agitated and stood in front of me, loudly scolding Emily.
What nonsense are you talking about? Get lost. Ava is not someone you can slander.
Emily, seeing Ethan like this, seemed even more agitated, as if she was about to have a fit. She jumped up and started cursing.
Ava, you dare to seduce my boyfriend right in front of me, and you don't even have the courage to admit it. You're disgusting. You just want him to protect you, right? Now that he's protecting you, are you secretly pleased? Is it fun to steal someone else's boyfriend? Do you feel a great sense of accomplishment now?
Emily's loud insults didn't bother me. I was so bored that I rolled my eyes.
Ava, do you have any shame? I've never seen such a shameless woman like you, pretending to be innocent.
First, I'm not familiar with your boyfriend. Second, I'm not secretly pleased, I'm openly pleased.
After saying this, I gave Emily a slight smile, showing my perfectly aligned teeth. My dad always said I had the best-looking teeth. Emily's temper flared even more, and she charged at me like a small cannonball, clearly intending to get physical. Before I could even start defending myself, Ethan, who had always been gentle, suddenly changed. His hand swung and landed a slap on Emily's face, which she had just treated with la mer in the morning. The crisp sound made me wince in sympathy. Before I could see Emily's reaction, Ethan pulled me away. I didn't resist. After such a dramatic scene, staying here would be the most embarrassing thing. Of course, I had to leave. But as soon as we left the field, I shook off Ethan's hand.
Ava, listen to me.
Your personal issues are none of my business, but we're not close. I hope you remember that and don't bother me again.
After saying this, I went straight back to the dorm. Lying on my bed, fiddling with my phone, I felt a bit uneasy. What I said to Ethan was rude, but it was something I had always wanted to say. Today, I finally got my wish. But if my dad found out, he would definitely think I was abusing my power. A new message popped up on WeChat. I opened it, and it was from Ethan again. I clicked on the message, and it was a series of voice notes that sounded very sincere.
I'm sorry, Ava. I sincerely apologize to you. I didn't know you were being targeted by Emily like this, and I didn't know you were suffering because of me. I'm really sorry. If you have time, I'd like to treat you to dinner tonight as a way to make amends. Are you free tonight?
3 consecutive voice notes, starting from a low tone and ending with anticipation, made me think Ethan should be an actor, not a student. Too lazy to send a voice message, I quickly typed on the keyboard.
We're not close. Don't call me by my nickname. Please manage your girlfriend and don't let her act like a mad dog. I'm not interested in dinner.
I put down my phone and lay on the bed, ready for a good nap. But Ethan seemed oblivious to my rejection and sent another message.
I'm really sorry. I'll explain everything. We're no longer a couple. I'll talk to her and make sure she doesn't bother you again.
Seeing this message, I turned off my phone. I wasn't going to respond to a two-timer. When I woke up, it was already lunchtime. My two roommates were applying hand cream, occasionally glancing at their princess. Emily was sitting alone at the table, crying. I don't know how others felt, but lying in bed and listening to her cry felt like she was mourning for me. I got out of bed, changed my clothes, and prepared to find Ryan for lunch. This dorm was like a high-density minefield. To my surprise, Emily didn't pick a fight with me as I walked around the room. I glanced at Emily, who was hugging a tissue box and crying. I was puzzled. Had she cried out all the water in her brain and regained her sanity? Even more surprising, in the following days, Emily ignored me as if I were air, not causing any trouble. Unable to resist, I secretly observed Emily for several days, and she seemed normal. But with Emily, normalcy was the biggest abnormality. After several days of watching, she still acted like a proud swan, making me wonder if she had been treated at a mental health facility. The tranquility lasted until the night of the freshman party. In the morning, Chloe was woken up by the sycophants in the dormitory fawning over Emily.
Wow, this dress is stunning. It suits you perfectly.
Of course, it's a designer brand. No one else could pull it off like you.
Their flattering voices disturbed Chloe's sleep. She turned her head and glanced over. Emily was wearing a little black Chanel dress. Chloe had seen that dress before in a sales catalog sent to her home before the semester started. She had dismissed it as too flashy.
Did she really need to flaunt her dress so early in the morning?
Chloe rolled her eyes, turned over, and went back to sleep. In the evening, Chloe arrived at the venue just in time and saw a group of people backstage showering Emily with compliments. She walked through the crowd, carrying her swana, and sat down at the waiting area. Her performance was scheduled at the beginning.
Yes. That must be it.
Chloe had just put down her swana when someone shouted outside.
Wow, come out quickly. The richest man is here.
All the students backstage rushed out, leaving only Emily and Chloe in the now quiet area. Chloe wiped her swana with a cleaning cloth, unwilling to even look at Emily. But that didn't stop Emily from picking a fight.
How do I look in this dress today?
Chloe glanced at Emily, holding back the urge to snap at her. Emily wasn't discouraged. She lifted her skirt again and laughed.
This dress is Chanel's new collection this year. It cost thousands of dollars. You definitely can't afford it, so you can only look.
Emily flashed a triumphant smile at Chloe, her expression even more smug.
But I'm not a vengeful person. Even though we don't get along, I'll still give you some face. After tonight's performance, I'll give you this dress, okay?
Chloe looked at Emily, rolled her eyes, and said nothing.
Forget it. Her giving me a dress? That was less believable than my housekeeper giving me a house.
Seeing that Chloe didn't react, Emily's smile turned into a vicious glare.
Chloe, remember this, anyone who tries to take my man will never have a good ending, and that includes you.
With that, Emily finally left. Watching her back, Chloe could only sigh.
If she put the same effort into her studies as she did into picking fights, she could probably get into any top university.
Unwilling to waste time with her, Chloe packed up her things. Soon, it was her turn to perform. She took her swana on stage, bowed to the audience, and played "100 Birds Paying Homage to the Phoenix." Chloe saw the initially puzzled expressions of the leaders in the audience change to smiles when they saw her dad's beaming face. They even started clapping enthusiastically, as if she were playing celestial music. After finishing the piece, Chloe bowed deeply to the audience. Following her dad's lead, a burst of applause erupted. She smiled and nodded, ready to leave the stage. The host came up from the other side to announce the next performance, but someone snatched the microphone from her. A sharp squeal from the microphone startled everyone, and all eyes turned to the stage.
Chloe, stop right there!
Chloe froze. That voice was all too familiar. Had Emily forgotten her medication today? She was causing trouble at the highly anticipated freshman party. Chloe glanced at the audience and saw her dad's stern expression, clearly displeased with the situation. Several directors looked nervously at the principal, wanting to intervene but hesitating. Emily seized the opportunity, gripping the microphone as she walked to the front of the stage.
Chloe, it's one thing to target me usually, but today is the freshman party. You ruined my dress to stop me from performing. Isn't that too much?
Hearing this, Chloe's initial desire to leave quickly turned into anger. She turned around and strode back to the stage.
Emily, what do you mean?
Emily looked at Chloe smugly and lifted her skirt.
You're jealous that my instrument is more elegant than yours. To prevent me from performing, you ruined my dress. Such poor character has no place in our school. I request the school leaders to expel Chloe to maintain campus integrity.
Her false accusations almost made Chloe laugh. Who was really damaging the school's reputation? Didn't Emily know? The leaders exchanged glances and finally looked at Principal Li in the center. Principal Li's face was full of embarrassment, clearly feeling that they were a disgrace. Chloe looked towards the VIP section. The rumored richest man? Her dad sat with his arms crossed, watching with interest. Principal Li gave a signal to the people around him. The dean, who had been standing outside, immediately stepped onto the stage, took the microphone from Emily, and smiled.
I'm sorry for the unpleasantness. Emily has always been an excellent student, top of her class, and a key figure in our school. And Chloe, with a poor attitude towards studies and a lack of discipline during military training, will be thoroughly investigated. If found guilty, she will compensate Emily for her loss and be expelled. Rest assured, we will ensure fairness.
Emily gave Chloe a triumphant look. Chloe sneered. Yes, she was the principal's daughter, so fairness was guaranteed for her.
Was it a competition of fathers? Who didn't have a good father?
Chloe looked at the richest man in the VIP section and smiled slightly.
Dad, if you keep watching, your daughter won't even have a school to attend.
Emily was stunned. She hadn't expected Chloe's bold move and couldn't help but mock.
There's only my dad down there, not yours.
The atmosphere was tense as Chloe rolled her eyes, and under everyone's gaze, the rumored richest man stood up and smiled at her.
Chloe, don't be upset. Daddy's here.
On the stage, it was just Emily and Chloe. Emily was absolutely certain who her father was, so when she saw the richest man stand up, her face was filled with embarrassment.
How is that possible? Aren't you just a girl from the countryside? How could the richest man be your father?
I didn't want to, but since you insisted on comparing fathers, I had no choice but to bring mine out.
Emily pointed at Chloe, her hand trembling, her voice tight as if she was about to break down any second.
How could this be? You're just an uneducated country girl.
Chloe's father's face darkened instantly. She was his only daughter, and he couldn't bear to hear anyone speak ill of her. Principal Li, observing the situation, quickly waved for two people to come up and pull Emily off the stage.
Mr. Johnson, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't know this young lady was your daughter. No wonder her swana playing is so extraordinary, simply breathtaking.
Seeing Mr. Johnson remain silent, Principal Li quickly added,
Today's incident is a misunderstanding. We will strengthen our management of the students. Since Miss Ava has been wronged, the school will naturally compensate her. I'll immediately arrange for a private room for Miss Ava, equipped with the best facilities.
I have only one daughter, and I've never let her suffer any grievances. Yet, at school, she is bullied like this.
As soon as he finished speaking, Chloe could clearly see large beads of sweat rolling down Principal Li's cheeks.
If this matter isn't resolved properly, forget about the investment for the airport. I'll even withdraw all previous investments. I didn't invest so much money in your school just to have my daughter mistreated.
Principal Li, already furious, turned around and shouted when he heard Emily still struggling.
Shut up! It's your mother who spoiled you, making you so arrogant and disrespectful. Apologize to Miss Ava immediately.
Emily broke free from those trying to hold her. She looked at Chloe, tears in her eyes, and complained to Principal Li with a face full of dissatisfaction.
Dad, are you crazy? Chloe stole my boyfriend. On the first day of school, I saw her get out of my boyfriend's car with my own eyes.
Hearing this, Chloe finally understood the backstory. On the first day of school, Mr. Brown was unavailable, so Ethan drove their car to drop her off.
Emily, your boyfriend is the son of my dad's driver. That's our car, he's just the driver. It's perfectly normal for our driver to take me to school, isn't it?
Unexpectedly, this caused an even bigger uproar, and the hall was filled with whispers.
Impossible. That's the most expensive Maybach, and Ethan's been driving it for 3 years.
Only then did Chloe realize that they had a Maybach that Ethan had been using all this time. The woman in front of her was on the verge of breaking down, and Chloe didn't want to talk to Emily any further. Scanning the surroundings, she spotted Ethan in a corner of the hall.
I don't know what you told her before, but now I want you to tell the truth.
Ethan's face turned beet red, and countless scrutinizing and gossiping eyes fell on him.
I don't know what you were thinking, but we have many cars at home. Even the nanny's grocery car is a Mercedes. A Maybach is just a car. If you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have even thought about a car being used by your boyfriend, right, Ethan?
Ethan, extremely embarrassed and angry, began to blame Emily.
If it weren't for you wanting to show off, would I have driven someone else's car? It's all because you look down on the poor and love the rich.
So you're just a driver's son, not some rich second generation? No wonder those ordinary girls couldn't win you over. You're just a complete social climber.
And what are you? A spoiled princess who looks down on the poor.
The two started arguing in the hall. Just as their quarrel was escalating, Ethan's father rushed over and slapped him, immediately silencing Ethan's outburst. Mr. Brown, who had been by Mr. Johnson's side for decades, had never been so humble.
Sir, I'm truly sorry. Because of my unfilial son, I've caused so much trouble for Miss Ava and you, almost ruining Miss Ava's reputation. But please, for the sake of my years of loyal service, give us another chance. This child is about to graduate from college. Please, show us some mercy and give us a chance to make amends.
Seeing his tearful face, Chloe felt a pang of sympathy. but she knew her dad too well. He was always fair and impartial, not demanding compensation for the years Ethan had been using the car was already generous of him. Sure enough, Mr. Johnson frowned deeply before speaking.
Mr. Brown, we've fought side by side for 20 years. Over the years, I've always been accommodating of your work mistakes. Drivers can be replaced at any time. There are many people who can do this job. But considering your age and your child's education, I've kept you on. But now your son not only used the car without permission but also flaunted it and allowed his girlfriend to harm my daughter. You've been with me for so many years. You should know that Ava is the apple of my eye. After such an incident, how can I keep you?
Mr. Brown was stunned, tears falling. Mr. Johnson sighed and said politely,
You've worked hard over the years. I'll give you an extra year's salary and the Maybach your son used. But I hope you and your son will never appear before me again.
Ethan was stunned. He probably never imagined that his years of good behavior, which had earned him a chance to work at Mr. Johnson's company, would now be in vain. As soon as Ethan spoke, his father interrupted him. Mr. Brown, with a stern face, thought for a long time before taking a step back and bowing respectfully to Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, thank you for your care over the years. I wish you great success in your career and happiness for your daughter.
After saying this, Mr. Brown forcibly dragged the reluctant Ethan out of the grand hall. I secretly gave my dad a thumbs up. As expected, he distinguishes clearly between right and wrong and doesn't let these matters affect others. But when my dad turned to look at Principal Li, his expression changed even more.
Principal Li, to put it bluntly, the dress your daughter is wearing is something my daughter wouldn't even glance at. It's just a dress, isn't it? Even if my daughter had ruined it, I could compensate 100-fold. But your daughter's act of framing someone is really too low, isn't it? Is this the sense of right and wrong that university students should have?
Principal Li, feeling guilty, nodded repeatedly with a smile.
Yes, this matter is definitely Emily's fault. We will strengthen the student's moral education.
Emily wanted to argue but was stopped by a look from Principal Li. However, this solution was far from enough to appease my dad. I forgot to mention, my dad is a bit petty and loves to settle scores thoroughly.
According to Mr. Johnson, how should this matter be handled?
Even from the stage, I could clearly see the vice principal's body tremble with excitement, as if he had been injected with a stimulant. He immediately smiled and said to my dad,
Framing someone is more serious than intentionally damaging a dress. The former is malicious behavior, while the latter is ill-intentioned. Since Emily previously demanded Ava's expulsion, now that the real culprit is identified, she should be dealt with in the same way.
In other words, Emily must be expelled. Faced with the choice between his daughter and his career, Principal Li had no choice but to bow his head and smile.
I will approve her expulsion application immediately, ensuring that there is no one disrespectful in front of Miss Ava. Regarding Miss Ava's matter, I must personally apologize to Mr. Johnson and Miss Ava. This was our oversight.
Before Principal Li could finish, my dad raised his hand to stop him.
Principal Li, I don't want to hear empty words. I only look at actions. You handle it as you see fit.
After saying this, my dad walked off the stage and extended his hand to me. I grabbed his hand, jumped down the steps, and happily went home. In the car, my dad looked at me with a face full of concern, no longer maintaining the demeanor of a wealthy man, but nagging like a worried parent.
I told you to be more high profile, but you insisted on keeping a low profile and almost got bullied. You shouldn't go to school for the next few days. Just rest at home. I'll ask Mrs. Li to make you some calming soup.
I didn't refuse. Home is definitely more comfortable, and it was just in time for the National Day holiday, so I stayed home for 3 days. When I returned to school, it was Ryan who picked me up at the gate.
What's the situation at school?
Principal Lee's record seems to be not very clean, so he applied for early retirement. The vice principal became the new principal and even arranged a single dorm room for you. Now, you probably can't keep a low profile.
I nodded. Whether or not I keep a low profile doesn't matter, what matters is that I'm comfortable now. Ryan and I went to pack my things in the dormitory. As soon as we opened the door, my 2 roommates came over, helping me pack while apologizing.
We were so cold to you before, it was our fault. We're really sorry. Please don't be mad at us.
I smiled and shook my head, pulling my suitcase and leaving. Along the way, classmates greeted me warmly and enthusiastically. In the new dormitory, Ryan helped me make the bed and asked curiously,
"You forgave them so easily?"
A lion doesn't turn around because of a dog's bark. I never cared, so there's no question of forgiveness.
How much did you suffer when I wasn't around?
Seeing the concern in his eyes, I patted his shoulder.
Don't worry. Do you think I would let myself suffer?
Ryan finally breathed a sigh of relief. I stood by the window and looked down.
I actually feel more sympathy for them. For the sake of a seemingly glamorous life, they have to go against their conscience and curry favor.
What about you?
I chuckled and snuggled into his arms.
Sometimes, I really pity my enemies. They can't stand me, yet they can't defeat me. I relied on my dad in the first half of my life, and I'll rely on my husband in the second half. It's a lonely life, like snow.
Ryan finally laughed and hugged me back, his voice firm and more like a vow.
Ava, I will never let you be beneath anyone. Within 3 years, I will become the next richest man and marry you in grand style.
In this tender moment, I took out my phone.
I'll call my dad and tell him you're planning a takeover.
Ryan grabbed the phone and cupped my face, his eyes filled with my reflection.
You might have to wait a bit.
Before I could react, Ryan's handsome face zoomed in, and he kissed me directly. It wasn't until the phone fell to the ground that I realized. This rascal used his charm to stop me from tattling. I have to admit, it worked.